Hello and welcome to TalkBack, the show where we ask tough, compelling questions from tough, compelling people. Our guest tonight shot into national prominence when he became the Chief of Army Staff after the plane crash that killed General Zia in 1988. Later on that year, he was to declare elections which would bring about a decade of democracy to Pakistan. Many credited him for bringing back democracy, but he did not remain without his critics. Some call him the soft-spoken general with a big stick. We just call him the Chief. General Mirza Aslam Baig, welcome to TalkBack. You've supported a constitutional framework which allows the army to share power with the government.
The armed forces must be consulted, institutionalized. By that I meant that there must be an institutionalized system of decision making and policy making. And if you go further, that is the role of the National Security Council, where the armed forces of Pakistan must be truly represented and their viewpoint must be heard.
And what does must be heard mean? Does it mean that the army can intervene whenever it wants?
Look at the things that has happened in the past so many years. Has there been a National Security Council? Has there been any forum where the armed forces could play a role in decision making, in policy making? Never, never.
All right, let's switch gears. In the Frontier Post on the 14th of December, 1988, you were quoted that people wanted political freedom and I allowed it. This is around the time of the elections. You think this is becoming language, that you are allowing political freedom?
Of course, yes. If I had said no, if I had imposed the martial law, who would have said no to me?
Rather authoritative, isn't it? That you allowed political freedom. Don't you think the people of Pakistan deserve political freedom rather than you allowing them political freedom?
Political freedom was denied to them for 11 years by General Zia. It was me who allowed the process of political freedom that people deserve to enjoy. It was my decision, our decision.
And that decision, the decision you made, that decision was completely your own. There was no pressure from your formation commanders, from within the army, to bring about democracy.
I knew that if I go to the army, they will have no opinion of their own, as I told you much earlier.
What's that supposed to mean?
We are a bunch of psychopaths. That's what I have experienced in those 10 years with General Zia.
When you became Chief of Army Staff after General Zia's death in the air crash, these were the headlines which were running. Total army support for democracy, says Baig. Army to stay out of politics, says Baig. I have no political ambitions, says Baig. Baig asks politicians to make polls a success. This was also quoted. We will not dictate terms to the new PPP government. This was once the PPP was elected into power. We will not dictate terms to the new PPP government, but will carry on the mission, which is very clear. But this was also written. But as time proved, the temptations were too strong. Throughout the Bhutto government, the Chief of Army Staff had a role larger than life to play, and which he did play. Whether it was the country's nuclear policy, its relations with India, or its policies on Kashmir or Afghanistan, General Baig played a crucial role. Even in the internal politics like Sindh, the general had his own views. How do you respond to that?
I never demanded any such thing from the government and all. The only thing I said was a request that do consider Ghulam Ishaq Khan as the president. I didn't tell her about...
That was a request.
I didn't tell her that I think he was one of the best choices to be the president of Pakistan, which she respected.
Do you think the Chief of the Army Staff can request
of course, yes.
the Prime Minister to keep a president
on? The Prime Minister, who was the age of my children, just about 35 years,
sure, but what are
I had the right to tell her.
What are the legal implications of that?
No legal implication. I can make any request to my Prime Minister. Any Chief of Army Staff even today can go and make a request.
But that's
to the President, to the Prime Minister.
But that's not really just a request, is it now, sir?
What?
When the Chief of Army Staff goes to a Prime Minister and makes a request, it's more than a request.
To give you one example, when Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto, she decided to change the DGISI, General Hamid Gul, and she wanted to bring a retired general, I agreed with her. But said, don't bring a retired general. It will be a great disadvantage to you and to the government.
You formed the IJI, or you allegedly formed the IJI.
No, I did not form the IJI.
And gave Punjab, well,
no, I mean,
and gave Punjab to Nawaz Sharif.
No, you see, there was a very strong lobby of General Zia, Nawaz Sharif and all those people. And they had a role to play in the politics of Pakistan. Benazir, People Party, who had been rubbed for 11 long years, they had a role to play. They were given all the freedom. So was the case with those, with the People Party called as Baqiyat of General Zia. They could not just melt away. They were there. They were a reality. The whole of Muslim League, the Jamaat-e-Islami and all. So they got together and we didn't oppose them. That was what we did. And they had right to form an alliance, like the alliance which has been formed now as the All-Party Democratic Movement. So it was a normal political process which was allowed to happen.
It was a normal political process.
Yes.
Your DG ISI, Hamid Gul, has gone on the record and said that he created the IJI under your command.
No, he was not under my command. You don't know the chain of command of DGISI and the army. When there is a chief executive, the DGISI works under the chief executive, not under the army command.
So the ISI was created under Ghulam Ishaq Khan?
Of course, yes.
That's what you're saying?
Of course, yes.
And the chief of army staff, which is you, had nothing to do with it?
Chief of army staff serves the government, and I obeyed the orders of the chief executive.
And do you think that's a lawful command?
Of course, yes. The same as lawful as today.
Creating a coalition which is against a party which could win.
No, we allowed a coalition to develop. We didn't curb it.
So you allowed it. You didn't create it.
No, I didn't create. I only allowed. I didn't bring any obstacle, any impediments in their way.
What about the fact that Benazir Bhutto, after her dismissal in the newspapers on the 9th of August, claimed that it was military intelligence under General Asad Durrani, and we do know that military intelligence, that the MI reports to the Chief of Army Staff. Does it not?
What did Durrani do?
That, and this is what she said, the MI forced the President to take this action. She termed last Monday, and she's referring to the date she was called out, action as a quasi-military intervention, and said that the presidential order which allowed Ghulam Ishaq Khan and before the press had been drafted by the JAG, which is the legal branch of the GHQ in Pindi.
What action he took, that was for him to decide.
So the dismissal of the '88 government, the PPP government, was not processed through GHQ?
No. No.
And
it was only that letter.
And the allegations of Benazir Bhutto and the formation of the IJI. What about that? The formation of the IJI and the allegations of Benazir Bhutto.
Why you are taking formation of IJI such a serious thing when there were so many coalitions formed in this part of the world, in Pakistan? Why don't you go and say anything about the present?
It's a serious thing when the DG of the ISI says that the army was involved in making the coalition, isn't it?
How was army involved? How was army dealing with it? Was the DGMI anybody else dealing with it?
Well, the DG of the ISI is a uniform general.
DGISI is entitled, is mandated to take part in politics, given by Zulfikar Ali Bhutto in 1975.
Right, the political
So
side.
he acts within those limits, but the army is not permitted to do any such thing.
And he reports just to the president and not to you.
Yes, of course. He doesn't send reports to me, to the army.
And you don't have any say in what the DGISI does.
No, he doesn't come under my command.
But did you know about the formation of the IJI?
Of course, yes.
And what did you do about it? Did you allow it?
Of course, yes. It was a normal political process.
Do you think
what was wrong with it? Tell me what was wrong with it.
Okay, this is what was wrong with it. A sitting president is commissioning the Director General of the ISI to create,
working under the President of Pakistan,
to artificially create a coalition
which will
contest against another party. Isn't that interventionism?
No, it is not. He is mandated to do it. The DGSI is mandated to do it.